Welcome to the Map for Sensitivities program. In this video, I'm going to go over the basic concepts that you need to understand before you can fully engage with the program. So first, I'm going to talk about what is an allergy, what is a sensitivity. These are both moderated by the immune system, right? These are immune system responses. A true allergy is mediated by IgE antibodies. So it's a little bit different. With a true allergy, each successive exposure incurs more severe symptoms to the point of anaphylactic shock, right? With a sensitivity, this is not true. It's mediated by different antibodies, IgG, IgM, IgA. And with sensitivities, each exposure, there's no escalation, right? So it never escalates to the point of anaphylactic shock. It is more of a chronic reaction, and it can also be kind of spread out in time. So symptoms may unfold over 24 or 48 or even 72 hours, which makes them a little bit hard to identify. This program will be effective for sensitivities as well as allergies. Most of the people that I work with are really interested in overcoming sensitivities, and so that's really the core focus of this program. But once you have resolved your sensitivities, if you have true allergies that you would like to work on, you can also use this program for that. So it is effective for both. Now, let's talk about why working with the brain could help with something that is being mediated by the immune system. Very simply, the brain runs the body, right? So we know that 90 to 95% of all brain activity is subconscious, and it is the subconscious mind that runs all the systems of the body. The subconscious mind very carefully calibrates and coordinates all systems of the body. And also, the subconscious mind is also aware of dangers in our environment, right? So we have this part of the brain called the limbic system. It's a very primal part of the brain, and its role is to keep us safe. So the limbic system is really looking at all of these things, environment and internal states. So looking at your respiratory rate, your heart rate, and it's trying to determine at any moment in time, are we safe or are we unsafe? And when we're unsafe, then the limbic system fires an alarm. There's an alarm system called the amygdala, fires the alarm goes off, and it calls for stress hormones to be released around the body. The brain also then creates symptomology. It can create pain or other kinds of symptoms that are meant to communicate to us, don't do that again, don't eat that again, don't go there again, to keep us safe so we don't do it again. But here's the thing. As Annie Hopper, the developer of the dynamic neural retraining system, which is a basic method of neural retraining used for allergies and sensitivities, as she says, the limbic system of the brain itself, can be damaged by the environment much more easily than anyone ever expected. And so you can look at the development of sensitivities as a mistake that the limbic system is making. It is an incorrect pattern of danger that the limbic system of the brain has fixated on. And so at one time, maybe eating this food substance or being exposed to mold or electromagnetic fields or fragrances, right, could have been fine for you. You know, these things were benign. They flew under the radar of your limbic system. But then something changed. And suddenly these things are causing a lot of symptomology. And that is creating this sensitivity reaction and what we call a sensitivity cycle. right? So there's a cycle associated with this, where we are exposed to the stimulus. We have the exposure, creates this stress response, calls for the stress hormones. Symptoms are created. Because of these symptoms, we start to believe, like, this is really dangerous for me, right? So it changes our beliefs. It changes our thoughts. It changes our behaviors. Suddenly now we're trying to figure out all the time how to keep ourselves safe. We're planning, we're thinking, we're taking precautionary measures, right? We are evaluating new opportunities or exposures or whatever to figure out ways to keep ourselves safe. So it can take us over. But all of these thoughts and beliefs and behaviors are only reinforcing this sensitivity cycle, only reinforcing that limbic, that part of the brain that thinks, this is dangerous. It's only reinforcing that theory that this is dangerous. And by doing this, we reinforce that sensitivity cycle. And then we start to see that there are certain individuals for whom they just seem to develop more and more sensitivities as time goes on. And like the pace even gets faster and faster. So the list is getting longer and longer with each passing, decade or year of life. And what we know about the susceptible individual is that there tends to be a correlation between lifetime trauma and this predisposition to developing a lot of sensitivities. So think about that. How does this apply to you? There are tools such as the ACEs assessment, ACEs assessment, Adverse Childhood Experiences Assessment, created by the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, which you can look up. It's a set of 10 questions. Did you experience any of these things before the age of 18? Loss of a parent that had a mental health issue, homelessness, whatever. So it's 10 things. Obviously, there are traumas that are not even included on the list. So I don't take the ACEs inventory. I don't take your ACEs score as the only arbiter of whether you've had moderate to severe lifetime trauma. I do think it is a starting point, but then there are other kinds of trauma that can happen before the age of 18, and there is lifetime trauma. So really, I look at it as a lifetime trauma thing. People who have moderate to severe levels of trauma tend to be that susceptible individual that just seems to, at some point in their life, this sensitivity cycle just seems to perpetuate. And so knowing that, we can add another layer, another level to, what those basic neural retraining systems are able to deal with. So basic neural retraining systems don't deal with trauma, right? They don't deal with the effects of trauma on the limbic system. And if that is a feature for you, then it is important to work with that trauma, because it was because of those trauma experiences that your brain got stuck. Your limbic system got stuck in this sort of highly alert state, right? The limbic system is supposed to keep us safe. If you've had experiences around being unsafe that were really emotionally intense for you, then your subconscious mind could be holding on to that idea that the world is very unsafe. And that promotes a limbic system that's hyper-reactive to things. And that is the precursor to developing that sensitivity cycle. And every time that sensitivity cycle fires or is reinforced, it becomes a more entrenched pathway in the brain, right? And so what we're going to be trying to do with this, what we are going to be doing with this program, is changing the sensitivity cycle, which has been firing, and reinforcing. And we're going to try to dismantle that whole neural pathway and replace it with the tolerance cycle that you used to enjoy. One used to be able to handle all these things that you've become sensitive to, and they were not an issue. So the thing, I think the unique piece that we bring to this program is really working with the subconscious mind. And the MAP method is a technique for working with the subconscious mind that is just perfectly suited to this purpose. So not only can we use recorded MAP sessions, a structured set of recorded MAP sessions, to overcome the fears around sensitivities, fears, the anxieties, right? The beliefs that go along with these sensitivities that we have developed, beliefs around genetically modified grains are not good to include in your diet, or these fragrances, these chemicals are honestly bad for you, or mold, that's toxic, or whatever it is, all that learned information that you have gathered because you had these sensitivities and allergies, we kind of have to unlearn, right? Because it's just another piece that's reinforcing the sensitivity cycle. And so we almost have to take these beliefs and overwrite them, or kind of set them to the side for the moment while we do this training, because they will not serve us in being able to reestablish tolerance for these substances. I'm not saying that these beliefs are not true. What I'm saying is that hanging on to them too strongly is going to keep you from reestablishing tolerance and being able to achieve your goals. Once you've reestablished tolerance, you can decide to what extent you want to allow these things into your life, right? So just because you can tolerate eating gluten or dairy again doesn't mean you have to eat it 10 times a day. And just because you can reestablish tolerance for mold doesn't mean you want to tolerate living in a moldy situation, right? But you don't have to be deathly afraid of this all the time. You don't have to be worried about cross-contamination everywhere you go. You don't have to be worried about encountering people with mold spores on their clothes, right? So you'll be able to live with greater freedom. And also, you won't be triggering this stress response all the time. So one thing I forgot to say is that when the limbic system, is setting off the alarm and calling for the stress hormones, it's putting you in the stress response, right? Fight or flight. Every time you have a thought about, can I eat that? Every time you have a thought about, is that contaminated? Every time you have a thought about, am I safe? Am I going to be safe if I go to that restaurant? If I go to that dinner? Every time you have that thought, you're setting off a stress response. And the problem is, aside from allergies and sensitivities, is that when you're triggering that stress response all the time, you're pulling, you're keeping the body in that state of stress where your body, in order to be healthy, your body has to be in the state of rest, digest, and heal. We're supposed to be in rest, digest, and heal most of the time. But for people who have lots of sensitivities and a sensitivity cycle that's kind of gotten out of control, we are in that stress response most of the time, virtually all of the time. And that is costing you your baseline health, in addition to, the allergies and the problems that come with allergies and sensitivities alone. And so by working through this program, reestablishing tolerance, and being able to pull yourself out of this constant stress response, you will notice that you'll be able to be in the parasympathetic response, that rest, digest, and heal response, which is the state you need to be in for all restorative functions of the body to operate. And you will notice over time, as the months pass, that your baseline state of health seems to be improving as well, in addition to getting, to overcoming allergies and sensitivities. And so that's just a wonderful side benefit of the program. So the other thing I wanted to mention is we talked about, the susceptible individual that has moderate to high levels of trauma. To some extent, these recorded sessions will help to resolve some of those trauma events and memories that are keeping the subconscious mind in this fear state, right? But for some people, the people with the moderate to severe levels of lifetime trauma, it may be beneficial. It is often beneficial, I will say, to supplement this program with several one-on-one live sessions with me. The reason for that is that we want to make sure that we handle any trauma events that are making you feel powerless, helpless, defenseless, insignificant, or unworthy, right? If there are significant factors contributing to that, we almost need to neutralize those first so that you can really see, have good progress with this program. So just keep that in mind. If you feel like you need to sign up for a live map session, please go ahead and do that. You can do that at any point in the program. But if you already know that you have moderate to severe lifetime stress or traumas, then I would start with a live session pretty soon, pretty early on, just so we can fully assess that and determine, how many live sessions you need and how you should pace this program as well to get the best results. So thank you for listening. I hope this is all clear to you. And if not, you can always shoot me a question through email. Thanks.